Hello, and welcome here. So glad that you took this time for yourself to, if not simply learn something, to create a beautifully positive transformation within your life experience, starting by changing what's going on in here. Because we all know what's going on in here ripples forth into what's going on out here. So this training will be split up into 3 videos. The first video, simply explaining what limiting beliefs are, where they came from, etc. The second video, how to identify your limiting beliefs. And then the third video, how to rephrase/reframe them and reprogram them. Okay, let's first start with defining what a limiting belief is. Because limiting beliefs are not the same thing as belief systems. A belief system could be something very positive, like I am a worthy and deserving person is a belief system that will ripple forth into your reality quite pleasantly. However, a limiting belief is a belief system that is limiting the growth, progression, or enjoyment of a certain area of your life. It is extremely common to have limiting beliefs in regards to success, money, relationships, power, self, so self-identity, self-worth, self-confidence, and then just life in general. Let's sum that one up to happiness. There are a lot of limiting beliefs. My bird just flew overhead. There are a lot of limiting beliefs about happiness. Some common limiting beliefs around money. Money is hard. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work night and day in order to earn a living. Some limiting beliefs that you may have about yourself, although this is going to be extremely specific to you, are I'm not enough. I never do enough. I'll never get it right. Some limiting beliefs about success and happiness often have to do with the way in which you obtain these things, the way in which you become successful. So I have to go to college for 10 years and then I have to start at the bottom at a company and work my way up. Like a lot of people have these frames in which they view this is how it's done, and we have these frames in each category of our lives. And then same thing with happiness. A very common one is that you fall in love. Well, no, you go to school, you fall in love, you get married, you get a house, you have children, right? And we're kind of sold this story of what happiness is, and then it creates a lot of limitation, especially if it's not in line with what we want or what would make us personally happy. So where do limiting beliefs come from? Well, there are kind of 3 answers to this question that all are kind of the same thing. So the thing that they all have in common is simply repetition. But let's go ahead and go into those subcategories for a second. So the first and huge, big one is childhood. What we are exposed to and who we are exposed to give us our first frames on what life is and on what every area of life should look like. We're shoulded on all through childhood. You should do this, you should look like this, you should act like this, and same thing for shouldn't. You shouldn't act like this, you shouldn't want that, you shouldn't XYZ, right? And these begin to shape and shift and mold our subconscious minds. And that's why childhood is such a big one. It's why I wanted to talk about that one first. It's because you are so susceptible to what's going on because you're learning from the adults around you. Mind you that these adults also have their own limiting beliefs in which they are operating with, right? And that you are witnessing. And so in your childhood, you're so susceptible to everything and everyone that's going on around you. And you draw a lot of conclusions and assumptions that begin to form your foundational belief systems, in which things will grow on, and then cycles will happen, and then you start living out your belief systems. They become your truths. Money does become hard to come by. And the people that you engage in relationships with often are people with the same kind of personalities, right? You have these cycles that are all based upon your belief systems, what you consider to be true. And these are the things, belief systems are the things that differentiate each person once they get into adulthood, of course, because we're all born into different cultures with different parents, etc. Of course, these things differentiate us. However, once we reach adulthood and we are fully responsible for ourselves, what differentiates us from other people and our lives and how our lives go versus how the lives of other people go are what we believe to be true. But more on that later. The second way in which belief systems, and more specifically limiting belief systems, are formed is through simple adult exposure. Adult exposure, meaning that you are now an adult and are being exposed to new experiences, perhaps that you did not experience during childhood, that are now causing you to draw new and more conclusions. Perhaps in your first job, your boss was not nice and was demanding and mean and XYZ, bad boss, right? However, you truly enjoyed the position. So that might start creating a belief system of, even though I got what I want, I still have to deal with negativity. In order to get the success that I'm having and that I want, I have to deal with suffering too, right? So in your adulthood, in your adult years, you begin to expose yourself to certain situations. And if you aren't conscious about what you are grabbing, informationally speaking, from these situations, your subconscious will begin to automatically draw conclusions without your consult. And then the third is repetition. It's one thing to obtain these belief systems, but then to continue to repeat to prove them right with your actions and your conclusions upon the consequences of your actions. That's just repetition, and it's just solidifying it more and more. If you believe that people in purple shirts are mean, and the first two, let's say, people you meet in a purple shirt are mean, then it's just going to cause you to draw a conclusion about every single one after that, and therefore probably not even attempt to talk to people in purple shirts. However, a person in a purple shirt could be your next best friend. So through my examples and through my explanations thus far, I probably have already kind of explained this part. However, I would also like to explain how your limiting beliefs affect your reality. So let's just go there. Your limiting beliefs will create your thoughts about what you are seeing and feeling and wanting. If you are wanting an amazing job, but you have limiting beliefs about success and maybe even perhaps limiting beliefs about self-worth and your deservingness of a good job, it's going to alter the kinds of thoughts you are having about it. You're probably going to start having self-doubting thoughts about the thing that you want, right? And so your thoughts will then cause you to have certain emotions. And sticking with the same example here, those negative self-doubt thoughts about the job you want or the career that you want to go towards will create a negative emotion, right? Maybe shame, embarrassment, pity, all of these negative emotions that are going to come from those negative thoughts. And then what do your emotions affect? Your actions. So your self-doubt is going to cause you to feel bad, which is going to cause you probably to not even apply for the job, not even go to the school to get the certification to have that job, right? And so in this way, your limiting beliefs are literally shaping your life. They are the little seed in which the thought stems from, and then the emotion blossoms, and then the flower dies. A weird analogy, I just kind of came up with that on the top of my head. However, that is how your limiting beliefs are going to begin to ripple forth and affect your reality. Let's go to another example while we're already here. If you believe money is hard to come by, you're going to live in a very scarce way. Your actions, your thoughts, your emotions are going to be scarce. So your thoughts are going to be around not having enough and that is never enough. That's going to make you feel scared and fearful. And that's going to cause you to take frantic, scattered action, not strategic and positive action that could then make you money, right? No, you're going to take scarce and fearful action, clinging on to whatever comes your way, right? Beginning this like energetic hoarding of any penny that you make. And that's not wealth, abundance, consciousness. That limiting belief that money is hard to come by is going to affect your thoughts about money and therefore affect your emotions and therefore affect the actions you do and do not take. So here's the end of video 1. I'm hoping that you're beginning to see how what is within affects what is without. I look forward to seeing you in the next video where I will be explaining how to identify your specific limiting belief systems.